Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver now.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadrunner.com. With your morning horn of Z's, your sip of chaga coffee. Oh my God. Oh my God is all I have to say. The new derivative OCC report is out, laying clear what the Bank of America silver short was all about in my mind. Holy shit. That's all I have to say. It's not all I have to say, obviously. First, I did a live chat yesterday before the OCC data was released. I saw that. I saw the OCC data and I was shocked. I was shocked when they had well, let's just take a look at it. But make sure you watch yesterday's video. I talked about the overall plan of the monetary system and how commodity derivatives play into that. Go check that out, and good Q&A as well. So here it is. Drum roll, please. I'll start with this is the third quarter last year. This was the shocking one. 18 billion in silver derivatives, basically leased silver. This is OTC silver, not COMEX silver. But I'll get to something really interesting in a second. 18 billion was a shocking number. Blew everybody away. What the hell is going on? This is all part of Rustam Benham, the head of the CFTC's designed plan to tamp down the silver price. Everybody's like, what could they do? What could they do? And I think I know what they did, because this is the end of the third quarter, 18 billion, which is shocking. That's over 800 million ounces of silver leased from JP Morgan. But look at this report. This is going to blow your mind. From 18 billion to 27.3 billion. Is there no limit to the criminality on the COMEX? Is there no limit to the criminality on the COMEX? It's right there for everybody to see. Bank of America, a too big to fail bank, a bank that is allowed to print money out of thin air, has a license to print money, has just put itself in a 1.2 billion ounce silver short lease. And the other option, potentially, I've sent an email to Ted Butler. I'm sure he's already seen this, but I've sent an email to Ted. Maybe it is the fact that the JP Morgan silver position was, how would we say it? They sold all that silver into the market through this mechanism with Bank of America. Maybe it wasn't a true lease. Maybe there was in-game options like exchange for physical, for example, where Bank of America, all they had to pay back was the price agreed upon at the lease. It's kind of like a purchase option at the end, which is not a true lease. So it should have been put on their books. But, with accounting fraud, you can do whatever you want. But it is just shocking. This is the total, right around the total amount that Ted Butler was counting for JP Morgan's physical stockpile of silver that they accumulated over the last 10 years. 1.2 billion ounces, and Bank of America has sold it all basically in the last, it's been like a year, 18 months. This is just shocking criminality coming from not only the banking sector, but the regulated sector. I think the deal for JP Morgan that was cut was not only $920 million. I think it was the continued suppression of the price of silver to the tune of 1.2 billion ounces that they had to get rid of. And now we got to wait 3 more quarters for the first quarter of 2022. But this is just shocking. I can't wait to hear what Ted has to say. And all the silver lovers, this should just rock your socks off. Bank of America increased their silver lease position by 300 million ounces after the monster they had in the second quarter of last year, or the third quarter. The third quarter was the big quarter where it was like 300 million, and then they did another 300 million. This is insanity at its best. It's derivatives gone wild. And I think there's probably some back-in settle price so they don't have to pay back the silver. But that would mean that JP Morgan has depleted its entire silver, or close to its entire silver stockpile that they accumulated over the last, 10 years. Shocking numbers. I mean, the OCC, this is what they do for a living. This is what they do for a living. So, sorry, I had to get that. Yeah, crazy. Hang on one second. This is the Jenny Moonstone call. We're doing our call today, and we're going to talk about, we did a reading on Brian Moynihan, the head of Bank of America. You got to check that one out on the private road. Yeah, we're going to do another one. I'm going to talk to her about this today, and I'll post that on the private road as well. But this is just shocking. And there's more to the concept that the way JP Morgan accumulated the metal was completely illegal by shorting the derivatives and buying physical. How they got out of it, probably, I don't know. But they clearly, in my mind, they didn't report it to anybody, so they probably did it for their customers. But in my mind, they have liquidated all their physical silver. So I think we are at go point for this craziness. But this number is just shocking. What does the OCC, the Office of Comptroller of Currencies, why do they require these banks to file these reports every quarter? It's to make sure there's no hanky-panky going on, no fraud. Bank of America over the last 18 months has gone from almost zero silver to the largest silver derivative position right next to their friends JP Morgan. It is insane. So look at the JP Morgan position and the Bank of America position are almost identical. Meaning JP Morgan has the long and Bank of America has the short. Net zero. It's insane. That's how you rig markets, my friends. That's the reality of where we are. But now with all these commodity brokers going bankrupt, it's going to get really ugly for this con to continue. But anyway, shocking numbers. And you wonder how the silver price is still under $25, $26. Shocking. But if the numbers add up and they report correctly, which is a big if, JP Morgan's silver hoard of 1.2 billion ounces is now gone. Interesting. So where are they going to get the silver? Where are all these manufacturers of silver that use silver going to get it? Where's Tesla going to get all its silver? Where's Apple going to get all its silver? Where's Samsung and Sony going to get all their silver for their products? What about the Green New Deal, my friends? There's no silver left. The JP Morgan stockpile is gone. Crazy. Anyway, we'll be talking about this much more. I want to get Ted Butler's take on it. He's the king of understanding this stuff. But there's other good ones too. For example, Mr. Harvey Organ has the Harvey Organ blog, and he's been talking a lot about, and Turd Ferguson as well. Craig Hemke. He changed his name. I still like Turd Ferguson. But they've been diving into the exchange for physical, and it's just off the charts. The exchange for physical is basically a way to get out of your COMEX contracts. And I noticed that in today's, yesterday's silver volume, it had doubled. I'm like, yeah, the price went up. They got to keep throwing shorts at it. But what really interests me is this: in exchange for physical of 2,275 contracts, over 10 million ounces in exchange for physical. And then I know these guys keep track of it, so I checked out Harvey Organ's stats, and we are at an insane number in the exchange for physical. Let me show you right. It's been insane all year. With exchange for physical is basically taking a COMEX contract and doing a swap with it on the LBMA, which is even more criminal. They say that's the physical part, but there's no physical at the LBMA. It's a fraud. So they work together, exchange for physical, to get out of contracts. And it's just been massive all year. Look at this, 137 million ounces in May of last year, all the way up to today. This month, March, is the largest exchange for physical in the history of recording it. Right now it stands at 160 million ounces have been part of the exchange for physical category, shall we call it, where basically they pay off in cash. That's what happens when they swap these contracts for supposedly physical. So basically JP Morgan is knee deep in the physical fraud over at the LBMA, and they got busted in America, so they have to keep it out of the mess. So, yeah, the exchange for physical, it's there's no physical involved in it. It's just swapping out your futures contract to the LBMA, and then the LBMA never settles the physical settlement. It's just insane. Anyway, there it is, 160 million ounces, a new record for EMP issuance, and we are still going strong for this month. They're not done. 160 million ounces. Result, we had a strong size decrease in COMEX open interest contracts of 2,516 contracts. U.S. had a very strong sized EFP issuance for 2,106 contracts, which exited out of the silver COMEX to London as forwards, the dominant feature today. Huge banker short covering as they get out of Dodge. We have a huge initial silver ounce standing for March at 42 million, followed by today's 105,000 in the queue. The new standing is 52.69 million ounces delivered. Those are physical deliveries on the COMEX. That's a big month. Especially because at the beginning of the month, they were only standing for 42, so 10 extra million ounces. I had talked about that last week, I believe. So yes, thank you, Harvey Organ, for that information. We'll keep an eye on exchange for physical now, because that's exactly what these assholes are doing. This is just shocking. The OCC requires banks to give them this information so they can regulate the banks. The banks have several regulators. The number one regulator of the bank is the Federal Reserve System. They regulate the banks. The OCC also regulates the banks. If they're not going to do anything about Bank of America and JP Morgan colluding to rig the silver price, then why do they even ask for these numbers? Ted has written the OCC and say, hey, what's the deal? Obviously, he's going to have a field day with this one. Another 300 million ounces added to the Bank of America, JP Morgan lease game. But if Ted is right that Bank of America only had about 1.2 billion ounces of silver that they accumulated over 10 years by shorting and taking physical out of the market, then that's gone now. This comes out to 1.7 something. I have it right here. And it is important because it matches the JP Morgan number. 1.1725, almost 1.2. So, these numbers exactly line up with what's going on here. The JP Morgan silver and the Bank of America. This was all added in the last 18 months. This was added over the last 10 years or 12 years since the takeover of Bear Stearns. So these are equal out. This game is over, I believe. We'll see. But I don't think the COMEX should be up and running as an ongoing entity, because all it is a method and exchange for lies. And the price of silver is determined on the COMEX. That's the only place in the world that's determined. Everything else is a fraud. So there we have it. As I say this, the world is falling apart. U.S. home pending sales plunges for the fourth straight month. Again, the two largest things going on here is commodities, the insanity in the commodity market, everybody getting margin calls, and the banks are staying away from commodity companies. They can't do it, especially the ones that deal in derivatives like Trafigura and Glencore. Those two are the ones I talked about yesterday. Mark Rich's companies, remember Mark Rich, top 10 most wanted on the FBI list, helped Clinton facilitate the strong dollar policy, and then Clinton pardoned him. His last criminal act when he left office is it gave Mark Rich a pardon. Shocking. It's some ridiculous story about he gave the Clintons furniture or something stupid like that. Had nothing to do with that. Mark Rich was the world's best and most criminal commodity market rigger. His real name is Mark Reich. If you want to learn about him, read the book Metal Men. He has passed away, but his company was split into two. Glencore, the public company, and Trafigura, the private company, and they worked together to commit fraud in the commodity markets. So there you have that. But those are the two pillars of the entire monetary system is commodities, because commodities are a telltale sign of they've printed way too much money. And number two is the number one asset class in the world, which is real estate. And the real estate market is crashing. And I think it will go to the value of the wood in the building type of thing. I wouldn't invest. I do like a house in that it's a place to live. House is not an investment, in my opinion. The only reason houses go up is the banks play with interest rates and the depreciating value of the dollar, which has been going on. But if the dollar crashes to zero or something close to zero, you have a massive, massive crash in the housing market. And I think it's coming. And especially if the banks can't lend, interest rates are going up. Even though the Fed, they say, oh, yeah, we're going to keep up with inflation. It's bullshit. Interest rates will be forced up without the Fed. And so it's getting harder and harder to get a loan. And the banks know, too, this collateral is worthless. So, and selling it into mortgage-backed securities into the market is failing. Get ready for everything to blow. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, interesting discussion in Congress with Twitter about censorship. We will be talking about that. The problem with censorship and the problem with saying, oh, this is fake news and all that, is that you never get two sides of the story. This would have changed the presidential story, the Hunter Biden laptop. Even though, yes, the rigging was obvious in the voting. But yeah, I think, if the system stays together between now and the next election, 2024, I think Trump will be a shoo-in. And that won't make guys like Jack Dorsey happy. But he was getting grilled in Congress, which is good to see. Anyway, we have a show on Saturday. This is the last show of this tour. We are in Albuquerque at the Salt Yard West. That is tomorrow. Tomorrow from 2 to 6. Come join us, hang out, have some beers, talk about freedom, we're going to sing, we're going to talk about cryptos, and this is new ammo for what we got to talk about tomorrow in silver. But I don't know what the title of this video is going to be, but it'll be something to the effect of Bank of America, JP Morgan, Leased Silver Con is over, and get ready for the silver moonshot. I'll talk to you guys later.